It's healthy to do things that are not comfortable for you. It's healthy to be put into positions where you're stretched a little bit. All right, I want to give you a little word from the Word today. I was looking at John 16:33. Jesus is talking to his disciples about he's leaving. They're going to stay behind. They're going to be laboring and ministering as he has. And there's been some profound verses up to this point in this conversation. John 14:12, he says, anyone who believes in me is going to be doing what I've been doing. So they're not going to be left deficient. They're going to be, sourced with the supernatural, just like he was. The things that he was doing, how he lived, they're going to do and they're going to live. So that's really significant. But he comes up to verse 33 and he said, listen, in this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I've overcome the world. So they're again, the punchline is that they're not left deficient. They're going to be able to overcome, but it's not going to be always fun. Whenever I talk to young ministers, young married couples, even just believers that kind of have the 9-to-5, job. They go to church. They're probably involved in church, but they, work in the marketplace, in the secular marketplace ministry. There's seemingly, and it's normally with the younger generation, there's this kind of conversation that develops, where it's not what they thought it was going to be. Okay. With ministers, they get to a church and they quickly find out that it's not always a bed of roses. And they're in the interview and this is going to be great. And they're excited and everybody can't wait can't wait till they get there. But then when they're there, very quickly, it's not always a bed of roses. And that's what whether it's with ministers, whether it's getting married, whether it's in a job in the secular world, it's what I call the 60-40 principle. So we want to keep these short. Let me get this out just as quick as I can. I call it the 60-40 principle of John 16:33. 60% of the time, whether it's in ministry, in relationships, in your job, you're going to be doing 60% of the time, you're going to be doing what you love, what you're gifted, where you're gifted. You're in your lane, you're in your element. It's what you're passionate about 60% of the time. And that's pretty much on par. 40% of the time, it's not fun. You're dealing with the other side of what goes with your calling, what goes with where you're working. And again, that's on par. It's the 60-40. You go to and talk to any pastor, just for an example, with pastors. 60% of the time, they're doing things they love. 40% of the time, they're running board meetings. They're doing office stuff. They're doing grief counseling. They're dealing with that person in the church that's just a problem, whatever. 40%. Every pastor is going to tell you this. Everyone who works in the job. And this is when you're young and optimistic and you want to, do something you're passionate about. You don't learn this lesson until you get, later on in life. And the 60-40 principle it's pretty accurate. I mean, if you meet anybody and they're like, no, 90% of the time we're good. Well, they're probably not being honest, or they're just shirking some responsibilities of things they don't like to do. Because the 40% is actually, it's not only on par, it's healthy. It's healthy to do things that are not comfortable for you. It's healthy to be put into positions where you're stretched a little bit, where you have to die to yourself. You have to serve. It's not what you're passionate about. In this world, you're going to have trouble, but dude, you're going to get through it. It's the 60-40 principle. I mean, it can bump up maybe to 70-30. But if it gets down below that, at some point, you're going to have to rethink some things. For instance, if it flips and 30 or 40% of the time you're doing what you're passionate about and it's great and it's wonderful 30 to 40% of the time and 60 to 70% of the time it's bad, I don't think that's probably not sustainable. You're not really going to be able to live that way. But if you're young in your faith, or you're at a new job, or even in relation, you're learning to be married those first few years, and or you're in a new church and you're having some difficulty, integrating into the culture of that church, or getting along with the senior pastor, or maybe some of your staff, whatever it is, and you're like, man, it's about half the time it's good and half the time it's not. That's probably about average. And it's not only about average, we probably would call that healthy. It's a 60-40 principle of ministry and life in the kingdom. It's what it's all about. So just something to think about.